Okay, let's talk about foods that can increase inflammation, particularly joint inflammation. This is of special relevance for those of you who have any kind of arthritis or joint pain, because these foods that I'm about to discuss are known to increase inflammation. Inflammation is the cornerstone of joint pain as well as arthritis. Now, the truth of the matter is that arthritis is a general term because there's over 100 different types of arthritis, the most familiar being osteoarthritis, which usually affects, let's say, the shoulders and the knees and the wrist. I have osteoarthritis in my left thumb, where if I bend the thumb, it's excruciating pain. I have no idea where I got it, but I do have it. Other types of arthritis include rheumatoid arthritis, which is more common in women and is considered a autoimmune disease, meaning it's caused by the body attacking its own tissues. There's also something called psoriatic arthritis, which is associated with psoriasis. And there's also gout, which is a type of arthritis characterized by the deposition of uric acid crystals in joints, especially the big toe. All of these forms of arthritis involve some type of inflammation. Now, there's certain types of foods, as I said, which will worsen the symptoms of arthritis and increase the pain and that type of thing. So you want to avoid this. The first thing you want to avoid is adding sugars, especially processed carbohydrates like candy, soda, ice cream. You got to also be careful of stuff like barbecue sauce, salad dressings, ketchup. These things all contain hidden sugars, quite a bit of sugar actually. Most bodybuilders and people involved in fitness already avoid processed sugar. So this is kind of like preaching to the choir, but I just thought I'd mention it because a lot of people don't realize the relationship between eating processed sugar and increased inflammation in the body. In one study of 217 people who had rheumatoid arthritis, they noted that among 20 foods, sugar-sweetened soda and desserts seem to be the foods that worsen the symptoms more than any other. Other type of foods you want to avoid are what they call processed meat. Some people also throw in red meat, just regular fresh red meat. I tend to disagree with that. They tend to lump in red meat with processed meat, but there's a big difference because the studies for example, where they've shown increased rates of colon cancer from eating meat almost always involve processed meat, stuff like hot dogs and cold cuts and delicatessen meats. These are processed meats. These are not healthy. Whereas red meat, especially lean red meat, does not cause inflammation, contrary to what you might have heard. The problem with processed red meat is that it increases inflammatory chemicals and markers in the body, such as interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein. Eating processed meat also increases an amino acid byproduct called homocysteine, which is produced from the essential amino acid methionine. Homocysteine is associated with vascular disease, neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's, also increased cardiovascular disease. I might have just said that, but the point is homocysteine is closely associated with inflammation, and eating processed meat tends to increase homocysteine. However, homocysteine can be fairly easily dealt with by increasing your intake of 3 nutrients: vitamin B12, folic acid, and what's the third one? B12, folic acid. Can't remember the third one. Oh, I'm sorry. B6 is the third one. B6, folic acid, will help to lower homocysteine by converting it into a harmless substance that excreted out of the body. The study that I mentioned earlier with 217 people were showing that sugar worsened the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, also showed that eating processed red meat also worsened it. There you go. Another type of food that is associated with increased inflammation and joint pain and exacerbation of arthritis is gluten foods. Gluten is a type of protein found in wheat, barley, and other grains, other cereals. There's a type of thing called gluten insensitivity, where a lot of people claim when they eat gluten they have horrible gastrointestinal symptoms, bloating, diarrhea. They claim that this is caused by an inability to break down the gluten found in these various foods. In point of fact, some people are a little bit more sensitive to gluten, but it's much more rare than is generally assumed. The actual cause of those symptoms that people get from eating these type of foods are not from gluten, but rather from what they call FODMAPs, FODMAPs, which are various types of carbohydrates that are difficult to digest. Some people are very sensitive to them, and they get these symptoms that they ascribe to gluten, but in fact it's from these other carbohydrates. It's not the gluten at all. They've tested this. They've given people who claim to be gluten insensitive, they've given them gluten foods, but they didn't tell them it was gluten foods. They gave me the gluten foods or a placebo. Both the placebo and the gluten foods showed the same level of symptoms, which was very low. There is a disease, however, what's the name of it? I can't remember. There is cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is a disease where people cannot digest gluten. For them, it's very important that they do avoid all gluten-containing foods. Again, it's celiac disease is what I was talking about. So there's some indication that eating a lot of gluten foods might increase inflammation. I don't really buy that much. I don't think it's really true, but I just throw it in here. Any type of ultra-processed food, fast food, breakfast cereal, baked goods, they tend to have a lot of sugar, preservatives, fructose and other potentially inflammatory ingredients, all of which can worsen arthritis symptoms and increase inflammation. The highly processed foods increase your risk for rheumatoid arthritis by contributing to inflammation and obesity. Obesity itself causes inflammation because fat cells release over 100 different proteins called adipokines, almost all of which are inflammatory. This is the worst thing about having a lot of body fat. It's a silent effect. You don't feel it, but your fat cells are constantly releasing these inflammatory cytokines, which cause a lot of damage. It slowly destroys your body and causes various degenerative diseases. One study of 56 people who had rheumatoid arthritis who ate a lot of ultra-processed foods showed increased heart disease risk factors, and also they showed higher levels of what they call glycated hemoglobin, which is a long-term measure of blood glucose. So certain vegetable oils, this is pretty well known. Omega-6 fatty acids, such as found in vegetable oils, are a precursors for chemicals called eicosanoids. Most of the eicosanoids produced from omega-6 through another fatty acid called arachidonic acid. These eicosanoids are inflammatory. So omega-6 has gained the reputation of being highly inflammatory, whereas omega-3 fatty acids, such as found in fish, are considered anti-inflammatory because they don't produce inflammatory chemicals. However, I want to point out that the idea that omega-6 fatty acids are highly inflammatory is a myth. It's not true. You read it everywhere. You'll see tons of videos. It's not true. There's to explain why would be way beyond the scope of this video. However, I will be having an upcoming article in my Applied Metabolics publication where I will explain why omega-6 fatty acids are not nearly as inflammatory as people are led to believe. Any foods high in salt are not good for any type of inflammatory condition, including arthritis and joint pain. Foods high in salt include shrimp, pizza, certain cheeses, processed meats. All these processed foods are usually high in salt. A 2019 study that involved mice found that arthritis was much more severe in the mice that consumed a high salt diet. High sodium intake could also exacerbate or worsen various autoimmune diseases, which can also increase inflammation. I also want to add, I've written about sodium in my Applied Metabolics. There's a lot of, just like gluten, there's a lot of myths about sodium. The dietary requirement set by the government for sodium is actually too low. They set it because they're worried about people getting hypertension or high blood pressure because of sodium, so they purposely keep the sodium intake recommendation low. In fact, people can eat 2 or 3 times greater amounts of the government recommendations of sodium with no problems. The reason for that is detailed in my article in Applied Metabolics about the myths of sodium. I'm also going to have an upcoming article showing the kind of reverse side where sodium could cause some health problems. That's going to be an upcoming in Applied Metabolics. Any foods that are high in substances called advanced glycation end products can also exacerbate or worsen inflammation in the body. Advanced glycation end products result when sugar is abnormally deposited in protein structures like connective tissue. When these sugars are deposited, it kind of stiffens and ages the tissue. These products are called advanced glycation end products. They play a huge role in the aging process. The stiffness that older people feel, where they just feel real stiff and have trouble moving, a lot of the aging of the face, wrinkles and lines, is caused by a buildup of advanced glycation end products. But most importantly, advanced glycation end products are closely associated with systemic inflammation. They're also associated with muscle loss with age. Foods that are you produce advanced glycation end products when foods are fried, roasted, grilled, seared, or broiled. You know, any type of high heat cooking, unfortunately, can create advanced glycation end products. However, the big debate among researchers is the fate of the ages, as it's called, that are produced from cooking food. There's a large body, or quite a few scientists suggest that the ages or advanced glycation end products produced from cooking foods, or protein foods in particular, are just excreted out of the body. They don't cause much damage. Other groups of scientists say that some of these ages are retained and do cause health problems. Again, I'm going to cover ages in my Applied Metabolics publication because it's a huge issue that is not covered adequately anywhere else. I've seen videos about it. They're all garbage. They're all loaded with mistakes. So I will cover ages in my Applied Metabolics because it's very relevant to building muscle and also the aging process. You will want to avoid excess alcohol intake if you have any type of arthritis, because alcohol, among other things, increases levels of uric acid in the body. Uric acid, again, deposition could cause joint pain. So you want to avoid excess alcohol. Personally, going by the latest research, you still see articles and videos suggesting that small amounts of alcohol are not only not unhealthy, but can actually provide health benefits. This would be, for example, drinking 1 or 2 glasses of red wine, maybe 1 beer and 1, let's say, I think it's about a 4-ounce whiskey or something like that. Personally, I don't buy that because the way I look at it, my research tells me alcohol is what they call a myotoxin. It destroys muscle fibers, especially the type 2 fibers, which are most amenable to muscle growth. Alcohol is extremely neurotoxic. It destroys neurons, and the benefits, the alleged benefits imparted by alcohol, can easily be obtained by things like exercise and a good diet. There's no reason. By the way, alcohol is a definite carcinogen for women for breast cancer. If women have any genetic tendency to have breast cancer, for example, if their mother, grandmother, someone like that had it, drinking alcohol would be like poison to them. So I don't believe there's any real health reason to drink alcohol, and it does cause inflammation. It does stimulate body fat, especially around the waist. There's no reason to drink alcohol. I used to feel guilty because I didn't drink any alcohol. You know, I believed all those stupid articles and videos where they said, "Oh, you should have at least 2 glasses of wine and a little blah blah blah. It's good for you." Bullshit. It's not good for you. It doesn't give you any health benefits at all. That's a load of. Well, I'm not going to say that. It gives you a little bit of health benefits, but it's not worth the risk. It's not worth the negative effects of alcohol. Some people think that coffee can increase. Inflammation. I don't believe that for a second. Coffee is the main source of antioxidants, natural antioxidants in the American diet. If anything, coffee is anti-inflammatory. Some people claim that milk could cause an inflammatory reaction. Again, I don't buy that. So that's a bunch of crap. So the 10 most inflammatory foods. Again, just to recap: sugar, including fructose, too much saturated fat, omega-6 fatty acids, only in super huge amounts will increase inflammation. Refined carbohydrates. Some people are sensitive to gluten. Some people are sensitive to the casein in milk, very rare. Alcohol and fried and grilled meats because they contain advanced glycation end products. So I think that's about it for foods that stimulate inflammation and worsen arthritis. Of course, people take a lot of medications such as anti-inflammatory drugs to treat arthritis. And then there's the natural methods like glucosamine and chondroitin, and various other supplements that will omega-3 will also seems to help reduce inflammation, help to control it. So there's various ways to do that, but the point of this dissertation, if you want to call it, this video, is that if you avoid the foods that I mentioned in this video, you will probably be able to cut down on your drugs to treat arthritis. And if you don't have arthritis, if you just have joint pain, which is very common among people who are involved in bodybuilding and fitness, cutting out these foods will make your joints feel a lot better because you're going to reduce inflammation. So that's about it for this video. If you want more information about nutrition, exercise science, anti-aging research you can use today, ergogenic aids, hormonal therapy, effective fat loss techniques, women's health and fitness. I cover more topics in Applied Metabolics than any other digital publication. Plus, it has my over 60 years of study and experience behind it, which can't be matched by anyone else. I've been a professional writer for nearly half a century. I know how to write for the public, which is can't be said for a lot of the people writing those other publications. So Applied Metabolics is completely evidence-based. And again, I add in my many, many years of experience, which can't be taught in any type of university, college, that you learn that by doing. It's experience. And knowledge is experience is knowledge. So subscribe today at www.appliedmetabolics.com. When you subscribe, send me an email. I'll send you an invitation to join my private Applied Metabolics Facebook page, where each day I post new information about nutrition, exercise science, general medicine, and health. I have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics webpage. That's exclusive for current subscribers of Applied Metabolics, who could send me short questions or on anything they might have read in Applied Metabolics or anything else related to nutrition and fitness that interests them, and I will answer them as an appreciation of their subscription. Obviously, this doesn't apply if you're not a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, well, to quote an old cliche, you'll be whistling in the wind if you send me an email. I only have a limited amount of time. I'm going to give that time to my subscribers who support my work. However, you're welcome to leave comments under these videos about anything that you think would be interesting to a large group of people, and I'll try and cover it. I'll take rational suggestions. Also, if you think my videos, and I realize that these are really plain vanilla, there's no bells and whistles in these videos, there's no fancy cartoons, there's no fancy graphics. I don't I don't use any graphics program. I'm just looking into the camera, talking in the mic, but I'm giving solid information that you can trust, unlike 98% of other YouTube videos. So if you think these videos are useful, please subscribe and tell others about my channel. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe. And I think when you subscribe that you get a notice in the email when I post a new video. But just so you know, I post a new video every Tuesday, once a week, each week. Every Tuesday there's a new video that goes up. So again, subscribe to Applied Metabolics, www.appliedmetabolics.com. Subscribe to my channel, very easy to do. And if you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, go to your local shelter and adopt a dog. Thank you for listening.